Okay, let us start from the section which we were doing before the break. It was section 18.1, contour integrals. Contour integrals are integrals where we integrate a function along a curve in 2D space. Suppose a curve is given by z equal to x of t plus I y of t. T is from A to B. We divide into n small subarcs, take a test point in each subarc, and then evaluate function at the test point, multiply it by the arc length of each subarc, take the norm of these arcs equal to 0. Norm is the maximum length of any subarc. When maximum length is going to 0, it means length of all arcs are going to 0. It means we are taking infinitely many subarcs, and this become integral over C. C is the curve f of z dz. Integral over a curve, we call it line integral, contour integral. The next thing is how to evaluate. And here is, I have explained you how to evaluate this. We split this integral into real part and imaginary part. And if x and y are given by x of t, y of t, we substitute x of t, y of t. And we did some examples. Here is example, here is another example which we did. Now, next thing here, we are starting from today is this note. In this note, we are trying to find the length of the curve. If a plane curve is given by z of t equal to x of t plus I y of t, t is from A to B, then length of the curve is given by integral A to B x prime t square plus y prime t square root dt, or z prime absolute dt. Now this is exactly the same you have learned in Math 201 when you learn parametric equations. For parametric equations, this is the length of the curve. Exactly same you learn in Math 201. Now, depending on or using this length of the curve, we have a bounding theorem. Sometime we are interested in upper bound of, actually the lowest upper bound, smallest upper bound of an integral, not exact value of integral, but what is the least upper bound. If f is continuous on a smooth curve C, and if f itself is bounded by capital M, and f of z is less equal to m for all z on C, so f of z is bounded by m, then the integral is bounded by m times L, where L is length of the curve. So very simple theorem. Next is one example to explain this theorem. Find an upper bound for the absolute value of this integral. Now here this is e power z over z plus 1. To evaluate this integral, maybe it is difficult. We cannot easily find value of this integral on the curve z absolute equal to 4. But here we are interested in finding an upper bound. And whenever we say upper bound, we mean least upper bound. We are interested in finding an upper bound of this integral, of course in absolute, over this curve. Now, For this type of questions, this is a result which is being used in many questions, that if you have z plus 1 absolute, then it is greater or equal to z absolute and minus 1. Of course, this makes sense. First we have z plus 1 absolute, and then we have z absolute and minus 1. Now z absolute given on the given curve is 4 and minus 1 is 3. So z plus 1, values of z plus 1 in absolute will always be greater or equal to 3. Now, can someone tell me a point on a circle of radius 4? For example, x is 4, y is 0. Now when we put x equal to 4, y equal to 0, we will have 4 plus 1, 5. 5 absolute is greater than 3, correct? When x is a negative 4 and y is 0, on the negative x-axis, then we will have negative 4 plus 1, negative 3, absolute is 3, equal to 3. So when x is the smallest, or when y is smallest, we will have the smallest value, and that will be 3. So z plus 1 will have smallest value on the curve z absolute equal 4 is 3, and all other values will be greater or equal to 3. So now e power z over z plus 1 in absolute. In absolute, we replace z plus 1 by a smaller value, so the overall become bigger. Then this smaller value z absolute minus 1 is replaced by 3. So we have 1 over 3. Now e power z absolute, we know e power z is equal to e power x plus iy, which is separated as e power x multiply e power iy. But e power iy can be written as cosine y plus I sin y in absolute, and then 1 over 3 power x. And we know that this absolute value of cosine y plus I sin y is equal to 1, yani cosine square plus sine square is 1. So what's left is e power x over 3. Now on this circle, the maximum value of e power x is when x is equal to 4 and y is 0. There is no y here, so the maximum value of x on the circle of radius 4 is 4. So the maximum value of e power x is e power 4 and over 3, and this is capital M. This is the maximum value here. This is the maximum value of this function in absolute when z is taken from the circle of radius 4, center at the origin, yani z absolute equal 4. Now length of a curve, length of this curve, which is a circle of radius 4, is 2 pi r. R is 4, so 8 pi. So therefore, this integral in absolute is less equal to 8 pi e power 4 over 3. It's quite simple thing. First, you need to find the upper bound of function in absolute, of course. Second, we need to find length of the curve. Now here length of the curve is very simple. So it is a circle, but if it is not a circle, we can use this integral. We can use this integral to find the length of this curve, which is given as capital L. Okay. If anyone has any question about finding an upper bound for the absolute value of integral, can ask me. Now, before I go to next topic, next idea, here is one note that if there is a curve u plus ib, if there is a curve u equal to a plus ib, oh sorry, ai plus bj, no, it's not complex, it's real case. Let's say vector u is equal to ai plus bj. Remember this I and j are unit vectors, and what I we write in complex is without hat. If u is ai plus bj, then a vector which is perpendicular to u will always be bi minus aj. I said ij, no, it is aj. We switch these components of the vector and make one of them equal to negative. Both are perpendicular. How can we see they are perpendicular? By taking the dot product. We see it is equal to 0. Yani u dot v, which is equal to ab minus ab and 0. So they are perpendicular. Now the next is use of these contour integrals, curve integral, line integrals in finding a circulation and net flux. Let capital T and capital N denote the unit tangent vectors and unit normal vectors to a positively oriented simple closed curve. Yani we have some curve, let's say it is some curve like this one, and later in some other section I will write this positively oriented definition. Let me tell you here, a curve is positively oriented when we move along the curve. When we move along the curve, then the area bounded by the curve is on our left hand side. So, and usually it is counterclockwise. Most of the time it is counterclockwise, sometimes it is clockwise. I will tell you later when it is clockwise. So positively oriented mean when we move along the curve, area bounded by the curve is on our left hand side. And suppose that capital T is a unit vector at any point along the tangent. So this is capital T. And then vector u, vector n is a vector which is perpendicular to the surface. So we have a vector u and a vector which is perpendicular here. So that is vector capital N. So we have a vector which is tangent and another vector which is normal to a simple closed curve C. OK. Then when we write, let me show you here. When we write this contour integral here, you see, let me put this in red circle. F of z dz over c is equal to integral over c u of xy dx minus v of xy dy. Now this is the real part of the integral plus I and the imaginary part. Now these are the same thing written here in this definition. What is this? That integral over c, c is a closed curve. Integral over c, f mean f of z, f dot t ds, this integral is equal to u dx plus v dy. This line integral, and then f dot n ds is u dy minus v dx. They have special meaning. What? The first integral, which is a real part of integral f of z dz, which is a real part of f of z dz, yani u dx plus v dy, it is called circulation around the curve, and it measures the tendency of a flow to rotate the curve C. Suppose we have this curve C in some rotating material, rotating fluid, then tendency of the flow to rotate the curve C is circulation, and the net flux across C is the difference between the rate at which the fluid enters and the rate at which fluid leaves the region bounded by C, and in the change of rate of change of the flux, net flux, it is given by the second integral, which is imaginary part of the integral f of z dz. So these are circulation and net flux, which are actually the same integral, but real part is called circulation, imaginary part is called flux. Now we are solving some questions from exercise. Integral 3 z square minus 2z dz, exactly same like we did before. Curve is given, x of t is t, y of t is t square, z of t, dz will be dx plus I dy. So dx is dt, dy is 2t dt, dt I have taken common factor, so it is 1 plus 2ti dt, and it is very simple concept that wherever is x, we replace it by t, wherever is y, we replace it by t square, and then dz by I plus 1 plus 2ti dt. And then we multiply them, expand the bracket, multiply them, and at the end we will get a real part and imaginary part. A real part and imaginary part. We integrate this simple integral, Math 101, apply limits from 0 to 1 and get the answer. So for this integral, real part is -2, imaginary part is 0. So if we look this previous, definition, circulation and net flux, we see here that circulation is -2 and net flux is 0. Real part and imaginary part. Another question is number 7. When we have to integrate real of z dz. Real of z dz, and z is a circle of radius 1, and a circle of radius 1 is written as z equal to e power it, because e power it is cosine t plus I sine t, and magnitude of this is 1, and for the circle t will be 0 to 2 pi. Now real part of z, this is z equal to cosine t plus I sine t, and real part is only cosine t.
Can you repeat z e power of it? Why we write like that?
Because z absolute is equal to 1, and absolute value of e power it is 1. Why? It is equal to cosine t plus I sine t, and the absolute value of cosine t plus I sine t is cosine square plus sine square, and that is equal to 1. Okay, for t between 0 and 2 pi, and this represents a circle. When t is going from 0 to 2 pi, the values of z we get from here, they will give us a circle. And from here dz is equal to derivative of cosine t is a negative sine t dt plus I cosine t dt. dt is taken common factor outside. So this is dz, and the function which we are going to evaluate is real of z, and real of z is cosine t. So we have cosine t multiply negative sine t plus I cosine t. Then in the integral, we multiply them and integrate, apply limits, and get the answer. So here sine t is 0 at 2 pi. This first part, sine t is 0 at 2 pi and 0. So this part is 0. And from the second part, only from here, we get non-zero answer, which is 2 pi. And 2 and I over 2 cancel. And therefore, the final answer is 2 pi. So here circulation is 0, net flux is pi. There are some other questions which are given by some other curves, maslan. Here function f of z is not given, but x square plus I y cube is given. X square plus I y cube. This is also a complex function, but it is not equal to some f of z. C is this straight line from z equal to 1. When we say z equal to 1, it means x component is 1 and y component is 0, because z equal to 1 is real. 1 is real, no I. So x equal to 1, y equal to 0 is this point. Let me call it as A. And the second part, from straight line from z equal to 1, yani from A to z equal to I, which has x equal to 0 and y equal to 1. So that point is here. So this is the line, curve C. So from A to B is the curve C. Curve C. So here, first thing is that we need to write equation of this line, because it is a straight line. And equation of this line, math 002, is y equal to negative x plus 1. When x is 0, y is 1, point B. When x is 1, y is 0, point A. So y is replaced by negative x plus 1. So z, which is equal to x plus iy, will become x plus I, and y is 1 minus x. OK. So it is not that we always change this integral into t form. Sometime we will use the Cartesian curve y equal to, like here, this is Cartesian curve y equal to negative x plus 1, any curve given in xy directly. If x is given by t, y is given by t. Any x is given by function of t, y is given by function of t. We call them parametric equations, and when x and y are directly related to each other, Cartesian curve. So here x is x square, no change, but y will be replaced by 1 minus x. So we have this part. And then dz is equal to 1 from here and negative 1 from here with I and dx by taking the derivative. OK, so therefore, we have this integral, which is only in x. Then we have, first we need to multiply them to make real part and imaginary part. We multiply this x square plus I bracket 1 minus x cube. No need to expand 1 minus x power 3. With multiply with 1 minus I, simplify, you get a real part and imaginary part. So then we integrate real part and imaginary part. X square is x power 3 over 3 plus 1 minus x power 3 will be 1 minus x power 4 over 4, and also we divide by the derivative of what is inside -1, so that's why this becomes -1. Similarly, we integrate the second part. And here one important thing is that direction. And direction of the curve is telling us that the limit for x will be from 1 to 0, not from 0 to 1. X is going from 1 to 0. So lower limit is 1, upper limit is 0. We replace these limits and get the final answer as -7 over 12 plus 1 over 12 I. So real part of the integral is -7 over 12 and imaginary part is 1 over 12. If anyone has any question here, ask me please. Any question, Shabab? No.
Clear.
So these are, you can see that there are very easy questions, not very complicated. You have done more complicated things in your calculus course than this one. Okay. Now here, question number 26. So these are some questions and also some examples which shows us how to solve these integrals. Question number 26 is finding the upper bound of this absolute value of this integral on C, where C is the right half of a circle z equal to absolute z equal to 6, yani a circle of radius 6. From where to where? -6i to +6i. So it is the right hand side of this circle, starting from bottom to top. It is going from bottom to top, and that is counterclockwise from -6 to +6, right hand side. Now again here we are using the same idea. I said this is important, z square minus 2i absolute is greater than z square absolute minus 2i absolute. Before it was +1 here. So -1 absolute, here is minus, and then 2i absolute. Inside here, it is plus or minus. That makes no difference. But here, it will be minus. And z absolute square minus 2, because 2i absolute is 2. Therefore, 1 over z square minus 2i whole absolute is less than, when we replace denominator by a smaller thing, smaller expression or quantity, then the overall become bigger. And on the curve z absolute equal to 6, z square will have value 36. 36 minus 2 is 34. So it is 1 over 34. So maximum value of this function 1 over z square minus 2i on the circle z absolute equal to 6 will be 1 over 34. So this integral absolute, this integral in absolute is less equal to, when we take the integral, the absolute inside, this become less, and this absolute is less than 1 over 34, and then the length of the circle radius 6 is 2 pi r. We will not have 2 here because it is half circle, so it is pi r only, pi and multiply 6. Then we cancel 6 and 34 by 3 and get 3 over 7 pi, 3 pi over 17. So you can see it's not very complicated, small question. Next problem is to compute the net flux and circulation. Actually, we are doing this in every question. We are evaluating the integral, and real part is circulation, imaginary part is net flux. But okay. Now, function here, one thing is in this definition that circulation is real part of the integral, but after taking the conjugate. And net flux is imaginary part of the integral after taking conjugate of f of z. I forgot to mention this. Any f of z is complex function, so f of z bar is also complex function. That is, will not make a difference, big difference. Instead of f of z, we will take f of z bar. So f of z in question 32 here, what you are seeing is 1 over z. So f of z bar is 1 over z bar. Now what is z? It is absolute equal to 2. So again here, we will write it's in I form, e power it. So z absolute equal to 2 is z equal to 2 e power it. When we take absolute value of z, we get 2, and then absolute value of e power it, yani cosine t plus I sine t, is equal to 1. And this 2 e power it is actually 2, and e power it is cosine t plus 2 sine t I. Now, if you want to see that this curve is given by this, which is x of t, and this, which is y of t. And if you want to see this in expanded form, so then in this z equal to 2 e power it, x of t is 2 cosine t and y of t is 2 sine t. But we keep it as it is, 2 e power it. And what is 1 over z bar? Any 1 over, look here, 1 over z bar is 1 over 2, and e power it bar will be negative it. And when we take this e power negative it up, it will become e power it over 2. And this is what I have written, because this is very obvious thing. So I'm not writing these steps here, but maybe it is not very clear to someone. So this is equal to 1 over 2 e power negative it, any bar. Negative is by taking conjugate, I replaced by negative I. So then e power negative it will go up, become e power it divided by 2. This was written before. So in this integral over c f of z bar dz, we replace f of z bar by e power it over 2, and then dz is 2i e power it dt. This one. From z equal to 2 e power it, dz is 2i e power it dt. And 2 cancel, I is there, e power it is e power 2 it, then we integrate, apply limits. That's it. This is what we get. But remember, e power 4 pi I, e power 4 pi I is equal to cosine 4 pi plus I sine 4 pi. I sine 4 pi is 0, cosine 4 pi is 1. Cosine 4 pi is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So this whole integral is 0, yani its real part is 0, imaginary part is 0. So circulation is 0, net flux is 0. I hope it is clear why e power 4 pi I minus 1 is 0. If not to anyone, ask me again. So here are the questions from 18.1, finding the integral, and then the bound for integral, and for if we if we, instead of f of z, if we take f of z bar, then the final answer is circulation and net flux. I forgot to mention f of z with bar. Bar I forgot to mention. Okay. Next exercise we are doing is 18.2. It is also about the integrals. But before we go for integral, we have to learn some definitions. A simple closed curve, although you are familiar with this, a closed curve is when starting point and ending point they are same. From same point the curve start and end. So every point is a starting point and ending point. Now here when curve cross itself, then it is not simple. When curve does not cross itself, it is simple. So we have simple and closed. Of course, closed we can just look at this, and simple is when it cross or does not cross. Now, positive orientation, as I mentioned in previous section that I will tell you later, positive orientation. So here I have written the definition, a direction along which we move and region bounded by the curve is on our left hand side. Okay, now next definition which we need to learn is simply and multiply connected regions. So roughly saying, it is written in this paragraph and figures. A simply connected region or domain is a domain which has no hole in it. Like you are seeing in figure A, there is no hole and it is a simply connected domain. And figure B has some holes. It is multiply connected. Multiply connected domain has some holes. Simply connected domain, no hole. And mathematical definition is that if you make any curve in the region, if inside domain D we make any curve, then we can shrink this curve to a single point without leaving the region. So in figure A, we can make this curve shrink to a point without leaving the region. But in figure B, this curve can be shrunk to a point without leaving region, but not this curve. Second curve, we cannot shrink this curve to a point without leaving the region because it is containing a hole. Okay, so this is simply connected and multiply connected domain. And the same thing is written in this paragraph. You can read it. Okay, we are also using one theorem, and I have taken this theorem from chapter 9. The same book, your book, but from chapter 9, as you can see, theorem 9.12.1, and this is just for a reminder to tell you what is Green's theorem. And this is for the real case. We will do what for a complex case, but this is for real case. So what is Green's theorem? Suppose that C is a piecewise smooth simple closed curve bounding a simply connected region R. Yani C is the boundary of a simply connected region which has a name capital R. So R is a simply connected domain and C is a simple closed curve C. Then integral over C on the closed curve C, P dx plus Q dy can be evaluated by double integral over R. Partial Q by partial X minus partial P by partial Y dA. Yani we can evaluate this contour integral by this double integral. One can say, teacher, here we are making things difficult. No, we are not making difficult. We are making it small, simple. Why? Because this contour integral you are learning in Math 302. But this double integral you have learned in Math 201. So what you are learning in Math 302, that is more complicated than what you have learned in Math 201. So evaluating this double integral will be, you will see later in a minute, that it is easier, although here we have two integrals, but it is easier to evaluate than the contour integral. Anyway, what is use of this Green's theorem in the complex sense? Here it is. Let F be analytic. Let F be analytic on a simply connected domain D containing a simple closed curve C. So this closed curve C is inside this domain D, and D is simply connected. Then this integral, complex integral, which we were solving in the previous exercise, integral over C f of z dz is equal to u plus iv f of z, and dx plus I dy is dz. Then we separate the real part and imaginary part. Now, this is the real part, and this is same like here p dx plus q dy. Instead of p we have u, and instead of q we have negative v. So we apply here Green's theorem, and then partial of the second part with respect to x. So here it will be negative because we have negative v. So negative partial v by partial x minus partial u by partial y dA. And similarly, this is imaginary part, but by itself it is real. Imaginary is because of I. So here also we apply the Green's theorem. We also apply Green's theorem here. And here it will be partial u by partial x minus partial v by partial y. Now this whole integral is equal to 0. Important thing. Why? Because, can someone tell me? Because f is analytic, it satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equations, which says that partial u by partial x is equal to partial v by partial y. So when partial u over partial x equal to partial v by partial y, then this integral is 0. And same thing is, because of partial u by partial y is equal to negative time partial v by partial x. So this makes the first part 0. So the whole thing is 0. What do we learn from here? That if f is analytic, domain is simply connected, and curve is a simple closed, then this integral will be equal to 0. That's it. And this is a theorem. What is this theorem? Cauchy-Gaussian theorem. It says, suppose a function f is analytic in a simply connected domain D. Then for every simple closed curve, integral will be 0. That's it. And we have seen this y is 0 because of this f is analytic and it satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equations, and applying Green's theorem we get the result. That is actually proof of this theorem. Now, so this was about simply connected domain. The next topic is about multiply connected domain. What I have made this figure is a multiply connected domain. Cauchy-Gaussian theorem for multiply connected domain. Okay. This is multiply connected. But Shabab, like a paper, you have a piece of paper and there is a hole in it. Now, when we make a cut AB in blue color, Suppose we cut the paper, we cut this region and open it. We cut this region at AB by blue lines, and then we open this one, and then this hole will disappear. So then the region left will have no hole. So we remove this hole by making a cut. By making a cut. Is this thing clear to Shabab, to you, that why this hole or the region which is inside, white region inside the small circle disappear, it goes out and it finishes, and then we have a region without a hole by making a cut. Like for example, you take a piece of paper and then make a hole in it. So now this piece of paper has a hole in it. When on one side you make a cut and expand or move the two edges at AB, then the hole is gone. Now what region do you have bounded by the curve? What region is bounded by the curve? That has no hole. So this is a domain which has one hole and it is bounded by two curves. Now here I want to tell you another thing, that outside, when we move along outside curve, we have to move counterclockwise so that region is on our left hand side. And when we move along inside curve, we should move clockwise. And if we move clockwise on inside curve, then the region will be on our left hand side. So this was something I said before, that most of the time it will be counterclockwise, but sometime it can be clockwise. So here it is. So now consider a domain D with a hole and bounded by the curves C1 and C2, outside curve C, inside curve C1, C and C1. Now make a cut AB and remove the hole. Then the domain becomes simply connected. So when domain is simply connected, then for this domain, some part of it is bounded by curve C and C1. Some part of the domain is bounded by curve C, some part of the domain is bounded by curve C1. So the integral over C plus integral over C1 bar. Now here thing is why I'm saying C1 bar. Because C is counterclockwise and C1 is clockwise. To make this counterclockwise, we put C1 bar. On the next line, I explained you what does this C1 bar represent. C1 bar is the same as a C1, but in the opposite direction. So this bar is not like a conjugate. This is just a notation. You can say C1 minus. So C1 minus or C1 bar is same curve C1, but we need to make it in counterclockwise. So C1 bar. Okay, now from here, we take C1 bar to the other side. So other side, integral over C1 bar is equal to negative integral over C1. This is also not the same integral. This is also. Why? You know that in case of even in case of real integrals, integral from a to b f of x dx is same as integral from negative b to a f of x dx. And when we change the direction, we get a negative sign. Similarly, I have written here with also integral over C1 bar f of z dz equal to negative of integral over C1 Why negative? Because C1 and C1 bar, they are in opposite direction. So we will get a negative outside. Like I'm showing you for a to b f of x dx is equal to minus b to a f of x dx. Okay. So now here we are coming from this integral to this integral. We take integral over C1. Here I forgot to put a small circle. Integral over C1 bar to the other side. So there will be a negative sign, but we change the direction of C1 and that give us another minus, which make it plus. So we have here minus, minus and plus. So it will be plus here. So from this one, for a doubly connected domain, we can apply Cauchy-Gauss theorem, but after making a cut. And what we learn, what we get from this, that inside this this domain, for this domain which has a hole, integral over C is equal to integral over another curve which is inside C. You see, you can look here that C is an outside curve and C1 is inside curve. So integral over C is same as integral over another curve inside that curve. And I have written here integral over C is equal to the integral over another curve C1 contained inside C. And this idea is true not only for one hole, for n holes, which is given by this theorem. That suppose C and C1, C2, Cn are simply closed curves with a positive orientation such that C1, C2, C3. And also remember here, C1 bar is same as C1, but in opposite direction. Now here, we have C1, C2, C3, Cn, which are bounding holes inside the region, n holes. So we will have n C1, C2, Cn. And then this integral over C is equal to sum of the integrals over all these. N can be 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. So this is generalization of the previous concept we learn here. And they should not cross itself. They should not have any common point. Okay. Before we go to next question or example, now look here. This is important concept. We will be using this in many questions later. That let f of z is 1 over z minus z naught is analytic at the point z equal to z naught. Not analytic, of course. F of z is 0 at z equal to z naught. And this point z naught is inside a curve C. Inside, it is in the region which is bounded by the curve C. Let f of z equal to this, and we can see it that it is not analytic at z naught, which is inside C. Okay, then how can we evaluate this integral of f1 over z minus z naught over C? We will make a hole. Then we make a hole at z naught. And when we make a hole at z naught, like you have something and you remove it by making a hole by using a drill, electric drill. So you make a hole at z naught then Z naught is gone. Now when Z naught is gone, but there is a hole, so we bound this hole by curve C1. Make a hole at Z equal to Z naught and consider a curve C1. Z minus Z naught absolute equal to 1. Yani we bound this curve by a circle. The easiest curve for us is a circle. Center at Z naught, radius equal to 1. You can make radius equal to half or something, or quarter or epsilon even, doesn't matter. You can make this circle not radius 1, radius epsilon, a small, very small, around this hole. Then we can write Z minus Z naught equal to e power it unit. And if you make radius as epsilon, then Z minus Z naught equal to epsilon multiply e power it. Okay, then put in this integral. So integral over C is same as integral over C1. This is something we have learned before, that if there is a hole in the domain, then integral over C is integral over C1. Now we replace Z minus Z naught by e power it and dz by I e power it. And why I was saying this, you can say epsilon, because if radius is, let us say radius is epsilon, then this will be equal to epsilon e power it. So Z minus Z, there will be one epsilon here and one epsilon here. And these two epsilon, this epsilon and this epsilon will cancel each other. And we have the same answer. So how big is this radius? Of course, it should remain inside the curve C, but we can make it as small as we want. So the answer is 2 pi I. So from now on, we need to remember that integral over C of 1 over Z minus Z naught, where Z naught is inside the region bounded by curve C, give us final answer as 2 pi I. Now, if power of Z minus Z naught is 1, then it is written here that the answer will be 0. And I have shown you this. E power 2 pi 1 minus n. N is not equal to 1, but some integer. Why not equal to 1? Because we are getting here 1 over 1 minus n, and this is telling us that you cannot take n equal to 1. But whatever is here, e power 2 pi bracket 1 minus n I, this will always be equal to 1. You take n some number, whatever that number 1 minus n. Masalan, you take n equal to 3. 1 minus n is a negative 2. Negative 2 multiplied 2 is a negative 4. Cosine of negative 4 e power negative 4 pi I is always equal to 1. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So this integral is 0. So if power is not equal to 1, then answer is 0. If power is equal to 1, then answer is 2 pi. And I will continue from here, solving few questions from the exercise, and then we will go to the next one. Now, Shabab, be attentive, everyone. Listen to me. Before the break, I said that we will have, how many quizzes we are going to have now?